Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'm making another wig. I get started by making a wig cap using one of Rune's heads that I cast myself. It needs a little fixing up for some pinholes in the resin, but I figured before I paint it, it was a great time to make a wig for the finished heads so I can do it without messing up a face-up. The old wigs were made for his old head and don't fit the new one as well, so it's about time. I make my wig caps using 2 layers of nylon stocking material stretched over the doll's head with plastic wrap underneath. The rubber band holds it in place while I slather the whole thing up with white school glue. I usually do about 3 layers of glue, letting each one dry completely. This gives me a decently hard wig cap, but it's still flexible enough that it's not hard to get on and off the doll. After the 3rd layer of glue has completely dried, I mark where I want the hairline to be, pull the cap off the doll, peel out the plastic, and cut the wig cap down to the drawn shape. I make sure it still fits, pop it back on over the plastic, and prepare to start gluing on some alpaca fiber that's already been cleaned, combed, and flat ironed. It's been a bit since I went through the whole process of wig making, but I don't have a lot of new info to add, so instead I'm just kind of updating how the way I make wigs has changed through the years. I cut the alpaca locks so I can use the natural tips around the face, where I want them to be the softest. Then I start gluing them onto the wig cap, using a popsicle stick to spread glue where I want the locks, and also to press the ends of the locks into the glue. I think the biggest change I've had to my wig making process so far is that I pretty much exclusively use PVA glue now. When I made my first few alpaca wigs, I was really concerned about how well they would hold up long term, how hard it would be to clean them, and I kinda went a little overkill on adhesives. A lot of waterproof glues are pretty toxic, they smell horrible, and they're a lot harder to clean up and a lot harder to use. They dry wet and shiny looking, so any mistakes show really badly. And now that it's been about 5 years since I made my first waterproof wig, I can safely say that I have needed to wash that wig exactly 0 times. Never. Not even once. So if you don't really need it to be washable, what is the point of the struggle? PVA glue is safer, cheaper, easier to use, easier to clean up, and just because it's water soluble doesn't mean you can't clean the wig. The only cleaning I've ever had to do on my wigs has been to wipe dust off them now and then, since I keep my dolls on display. And I do that by swiping them with a baby wipe, and that doesn't hurt the glue at all. Unless you're going to be soaking it in water, there is no reason to use a waterproof glue for wigs. I might feel differently if I were selling my work, but I pretty much only make them for my own dolls, so this is fine. When I started making wigs, I also tended to only use the natural ends of the locks. And I don't do that anymore, since I've learned how easy it is to trim the blunt cut locks and make them look nice. So now instead I try to maximize my fiber usage, because alpaca fiber is really expensive. And even though I inherited basically a lifetime supply from my cool uncle, whose boat we never did find by the way, it's all short white fiber, so I use other stuff sometimes too. I still like Alpaca Meadows for buying suri fiber. They didn't give me anything for saying that, I just had great experiences with their fiber, and I like that you get to know a little bit about the alpacas the locks come from. Like, I want to pet an alpaca. I want to feel like I have alpaca friends. Please tell me their names. Another thing that's changed as I make more wigs is that I use a lot less fiber than I used to. Sometimes I do want a really full wig with a lot of volume, but like for this wig, which is like a size 9-10 I believe, somewhere around there, I'm only doing 2 rows of fiber, with a 3rd row at the back and then the parting line on top. So that's 3 rows total, which gives me a much flatter, easier to style wig. Obviously, that won't work for really short styles because you would be able to see through to the wig cap, but it is what it is. When I make wefts for the part, that's also a little different now. I find it works best for me to cut the lock to the length I want, spread it out, and then put a fat line of glue along the top cut edge. I can press that in with a popsicle stick and it gives me a really solid but narrow and easy to manipulate band at the top of the weft. I cut off the excess glue once it's dry, and I don't need to take any more off the top of the wefts because the band is maybe half a centimeter wide. This also makes it much easier to place smoothly. I try to plan ahead more for the parting lines now, making sure I use the right combination of wefts since they're often different widths. I had some gaps at the back, so I added a little more fiber to cover those up, and then I add the parting line. I penciled on where I wanted it to go, and then I add a line of glue to one side of that line. I place the wefts for the first side so that when I fold them over, they'll hide the glued part completely. I do the part one side at a time, giving the first side plenty of time to dry before I tackle the second. The second side needs a little layering and folding to make the wefts sit nicely, but I just try to get it as close as I can to the other side, squish it on close, and put on a rubber band to hold it in place. And that way it won't shift around while it dries. The water-based glue won't stick to the rubber band, so it's easy to peel off later. I pull that off after it's completely dry and use a curling iron to press the part flat. I wish I could use my flat iron for this, but it doesn't open very wide, so that won't work. There's a little gap at the very top of the wig where the part didn't go together completely, but once I get to the final styling and fluff things up a little bit, that won't show. And even if it does, the cap that I made is a natural skin tone, so if anything, it's just gonna look like a real human part. I comb everything out nice and smooth and make sure it's laying the way I want. Then it's time to start trimming. I use thinning shears to snip vertically into the ends of the locks to make the natural tips shorter and to make the blunted cut tips look more natural. It takes a few passes with the shears to make them look really good, but that's a long, time-consuming process, and I didn't film the whole thing, so hopefully what is here gives a good idea of what the process is like. After it's done, I peel the plastic out of the finished wig one last time and try it on. Not too bad, just needs a little water styling to smooth out the fluffiness, and then it's ready to put on the finished doll himself. This wig fits his new head so much better, and I'm really happy with the varied lengths of the fiber too, since that suits the character. All in all, I'd say it worked out pretty well. That's all for today though. Thanks for watching. Bye.